Good morning,
Good.
and welcome to another edition of the Kitchings Table. I'm your host, W. Earl Kitchings, and as always, joining me every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. is my co-host, Ronleen Kennedy. Ronleen, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, doing well. Always good to see you. Always glad to be with you, and always glad to be here on a Tuesday morning because something different, inspiring, educational, motivational, or just providing knowledge. It's always happening here at the Kitchings Table. I can say that much. We always find something to enlighten and inspire or make you pause and go, hadn't thought about that or didn't know that. So it's another great day here at the Kitchings Table.
Indeed, it is.
You opened us up with a cover of the
Yes.
book by Richard Alberta titled The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory. And this is a fascinating book simply because it is talking about what our topic is going to be about today. And being that Tim Alberta uh, has a spiritual and religious background, his father was a minister, but because of the way things are going in American society, I won't say in just society in general, but in American society, he felt a need to pen this book in order to, I guess, bring light to what's really going on in some circles that that are causing some concern as we embark upon the 2024 election. Because uh, you know, it was always said that religion and politics should never mix in our day-to-day worlds when it comes to uh, dealing with government and things of that nature. But it seems that page has been torn, ripped, shredded out of the book and tossed away because in America, over the last, man, it doesn't seem like 8 years, but it's been almost 8 years since the ex-president was elected. In those 8 years, we have seen the United States of America internally go through so many ups and too many downs as it relates to who we are and what we're trying to be. And the fact that democracy, American democracy, the largest uh, democracy in the world, I would think, is teetering on the brink of autocracy or dictatorship by one of its own citizens. And to move us and to move the needle in that direction is cause for concern and cause for understanding that I'm not going to say when it happens, but should it happen, this country will never, ever be the same again. Those people who believe in that uh, thought process or believing that that's where the country needs to go, believing that we should have a strong leader from that perspective, Ronleen, I don't really think they understand that when it changes for everybody. It doesn't just change for the minorities or black people or brown people, red people, yellow people, immigrants. It changes for everybody. And those who are wanting this or supporting this or theorizing that this is where we need to be going, um, I don't think they really thought this whole thing through because dictatorship is one of those autonomous things that once I get power, I'm never, ever, 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 ever relinquishing power. Uh, China has always been a communist country. They've always been on in that mode. I mean, for a long time. I guess once politics, but when you got countries that started with kings or that level of government authority, then that has kind of been the dictatorship thing. I mean, when or autocracy thing. When you think about countries who've had kings and or queens, some countries have shedded the king queen uh, level of governing. There's some countries that used to have kings and used to have and or queens. They are no longer that. They are either democratic now, or they are, I guess, under a dictator's rule, I guess. And I think about the fact that just recently, the citizens of Germany. Now this just has to be something you really got to put some thought into. So once upon a time, Germany, once known as Bavaria, Bavaria was a country that was ruled by a king, and they got away from that monarchy and they moved into a state of dictatorship under uh, their former leader, uh, Mr. Hitler. And when the World War, the World Wars, because uh, Germany was involved heavily in both. But after World War II, although the country did be an autocracy, I don't know if it was quite a dictatorship, but uh, or they were they had the division, West Germany, East Germany thing, and you had the Berlin Wall that divided communist Germany from democratic Germany. And when when it was made, when the decision was made to move away from this split country and unify the country as a whole, when they tore down the Berlin Wall, when they made that country a democracy, things changed. It became a stronger country. It was always a strong country, always an industrialized country that was very, very endowed with not only making things, but they had the brain power over there to create and invent many, many things that we are proud to use in our everyday life now. Um, they, out of World War II, created the jet plane. Okay, they created the jet plane. There was no jet plane until Germany created jets during World War II. Everything was a propellerized plane, props as they call it. But when they came up with that jet as a fighting tool, a piece of equipment to command the airways, the technology survived, although the effort to rule the world did not. And when Germany was defeated, the scientists and the engineers moved that technology and those ideas and those thoughts forward. And the next thing you know, we had companies who are already building planes, but now to get that technology of a jet that can move you with more power and faster. And you keep tweaking that process and it keeps evolving, keeps evolving to the point where you have a jet that can fly at supersonic speeds. I mean, you had, the SSTs flying at supersonic speeds, and that was all coming from the fact that they had created these jets. And you just, you keep looking for a way to make things go bigger and faster and stronger. And that's what they did. But to get back to my point, so you had a kingdom, you had a monarchy. It went through a dictatorship. It evolved into a democracy. And recently, it is now at a point where the country is looking at being split again over the idea of what our topic for today is civil religion and people using religion to promote politics. Religion should stay over here in its lane, politics should stay over here in its lane, and, you know, let's create the oil and water concept. They can't mix. But recently, the free, I won't say the free, the people who strongly believe in democracy in Germany had a march because it seems that one faction of Germany is wanting to use their control and authority to move Germany into this somewhat, we're going to have it this way because we want to minimize immigrants coming into this country. We want to eliminate immigrants. And it's always interesting that people are always talking about eliminating other people, um, minimizing other people, and things of that nature. And it's it's unfortunate, but then at the same time, it's fortunate that these things happen because it brings light to issues. And it's not just America that is fighting this battle for one side, one political side, to want to control everything based on their beliefs. Uh, we don't want immigrants. Well, we don't want immigrants in America, so we want to turn them away. And when the governor of a state says if he wasn't going to get arrested, he would shoot immigrants. You know, um, how does a man who and here's the sad part, how does a man who has that kind of mindset, who believes in the strength of their political ambitions and directions, say things like that while all at the same time he is governing his country from a position where his body is minimized because he lives in a wheelchair day to day? You would think that would give him more compassion, but that doesn't seem to be his issue. It's like he's angry about something, or he's mad about something, or I don't know. But if if I was so placed in that kind of situation, I think I would be a little bit more humble, uh, based on my situation, to not want to be so quick to, you know, minimize or get rid of or eliminate. I mean, to say that if you didn't think you would get arrested, you would shoot immigrants. I mean, what kind of real thought is that? I mean, and the sad part about it, you say that, and then you turn around on Sunday and you go and pray about it. Uh, and we all know that one of the commandments says, "Thou shalt not who?
Kill.
Thou shalt not kill." So that's where I'm looking at this topic of civil religion right now, because it has such a hypocritical stance to it. You say one thing, you believe another thing, and you do a totally different thing. So our topic today is civil religion, people using religion to promote politics. So I wanted to put that out there first, uh, to give us a backdrop of what we're going to be talking about this morning. And I just like to get your input, Ronline, on what you think about uh, what I've commented on so far, and what your thoughts might be.
So, being in ministry myself and coming up through the ranks of ministers, this topic for me is very thought provoking. It makes you conscious of your own walk in life and the things that you think about and the things that you discuss with people and what's really in your heart. So, this topic today, I think, in moving ourselves forward, and I'm talking about everyone, you as you said earlier, you have to be conscious of your thoughts and how it directly impact not only just you, but the people that you claim to care about, the people that you love, the people that you serve, the people that you want to serve. And are you being a good servant, a good steward, or are you being that person that's, as you said earlier, totally hypocritical to the word of God? No one wants that for themselves. I don't believe that. And if you do, then, you know, you have to really judge your own heart. And I understand that you can't really be a judge of yourself because you really can't see yourself, but you do need the help of others to be able to bring out, your faults, the things that needs correction, and be that person to honor that. You treat others the way you want to be treated. So, as you stated about, if I was in a wheelchair, if I was wheelchair bound, would I really want to go around and see other people hurting when you know what you've been through in order to be in that state of being? When I think about being wheelchair bound, you're limited in what you can do for yourself. And so to eliminate others, from being a part of a whole, you're impacting other people's families. And as far as being an immigrant is concerned, if you look at yourself and your ancestry and where you come from, we all are immigrants. No one, no one, unless you were Native American, the first settlers or what have you, and when you talk to them, they don't have that kind of hatred in their heart, if you want to use the word hatred. They don't feel that way. They just wish that, as Malcolm X said in the beginning, first you are a human being, and I'm paraphrasing. Let's respect people as human beings. All of that other stuff that goes right out of the window when you start respecting people as human beings. So that's my take on that.
Okay. Well, and that's a great take because, again, we talk about people and their beliefs. And when you make the comment that you can't judge yourself, no, because you'll be biased. So if you judge yourself, you're going to be biased about you. Uh, each of us will be biased uh, in our own judgment of ourselves simply because we're not going to criticize harshly. We might criticize ourselves. We may not criticize ourselves harshly. And that harshly criticism can lead to people's feelings being crushed, destroyed. People get into their feelings and they lose their mind sometimes. We've seen that oftentimes where, you've seen crimes committed and, the first, one of the things, I won't say the first thing, but one of the things lawyers may want to have said is like, well, they lost their mind for a moment. So they were, they were crazy or they lost their mind to the point where the crime they committed was not done out of a person who was in their right mind. So, we have to keep in mind that that is going to be one of those biases that we might look at when we talk about judging ourselves because we may not, we just may not be in our right mind to judge ourselves. I think if you ask us to judge ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10, I think many of us will be in the 9 to 10 range. It's like, so you ask them the question, so you're saying there's nothing wrong with you? You have no faults? And of course, you know how that people say, well, I didn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, what did you say?
Absolutely right about that. I mean,
Okay. What did you say then? Because I don't think there's ever been, and you can correct me, I don't think there's ever been but one perfect person to ever walk the face of the earth.
Right? And even he said he wasn't perfect.
When he was in human form, he said he wasn't perfect. He did some things now. He did
Mhm.
some things, and you'd be like, you're not supposed to do that. He did some things. I mean, and it's documented. You go to the place where people are collecting money, you turning over tables and throwing money everywhere, and you acting, you know, you start, beating on people and, you know, taking things into your own control, and you're like, you shouldn't be doing that. You're supposed to be above that. Well, I
I'm
think
only
we
human.
thank you. That's where I was going. It's like, well, you got to remember now, I'm in human form. I'm in human form, so I act like y'all act. I do what y'all do. Y'all, when I try to give it to you in a very
Mild
mild
manner.
form, you know, y'all didn't want that. Y'all thought, oh, he's soft. That's the first thing. Oh, he's soft. But then when I come at you like the way y'all don't want me to be or shouldn't be, then y'all give me a whole different perspective. So can't cut it both ways. You can't have it both ways. So, but that's kind of what's going on. But uh, in our definition of what civil religion is being defined as, and is also thought to be known as civic religion. So you can see that we're not talking about religion. We're talking about civil/civic religion, and there's a distinction. So it says the implicit religious values of a nation as expressed through public rituals, symbols such as the national flag, and ceremonies on sacred days and at sacred places. It is distinct from churches, although church officials and ceremonies are sometimes incorporated into the practice of civil religion. So that's what we're talking about today. That's where we are. And to go on from what I was able to research online, it is a sociological theory that a non-sectarian quasi-religious faith exists within the United States with sacred symbols drawn from national history. So if this may be a little complex for people to understand and wrap their heads around, uh, want you to understand that as we talk about certain religions, i.e., based on Tim Alberta's book, Evangelicals, and sort of the direction they're going in now, there is a reason to have alert, to be on alert, to really understand what's going on, because there are two things that people who want to be in control, who want to be in ultimate control, who want to be at the highest control, want to do. And the two things have to deal with money and power. Money and power. And when money and power are in control of an individual or a group of like-minded individuals, they aren't going to really, in my opinion, they aren't really going to have compassion. They have greed in them. They want everything. They want everyone to do it their way. And it's just interesting that he wrote this book and it talks about these types of things. And also in doing the research, um, civil religion can also be thought of as a shared set of fundamental beliefs, values, holidays, and rituals. And it goes on to say that, civil religion in America has no church, denominations, or institutional center, and cannot be traced to a single origin. It operates as a religion in many ways familiar to Americans. However, there is a slight slant to it in some degrees. So when they bring in their mindsets and put it with politics, when you as a political figure are serving and making your points to people who believe in this particular thing, or people who aren't really thinking of the full outcome of what moving the needle to a dictatorship or autocracy could mean, a lot of things get convoluted. You know, the ex-president makes the comment, and I don't. I guess all his followers, as they call it, his base, they'll believe this. Well, I only want to be a dictator for one day. Now, for a man who has told over 20,000 lies, it might be up to 30,000 now. Do you really believe that? Because when you become drunk with power, I mean, totally intoxicated with power, when you are just immersed, you're dripping wet in power. You're not gonna give up that power. I'm sorry. He says it. I don't believe it. Not for one microsecond. Not one microsecond do I believe that if he was able to get there. And I hope that, as for those of us who truly believe in the power of the Almighty, answering prayer, that he will never see the light of day to enter the White House ever again, simply because of his mindset and where he wants to take this country. You know, um, he's not going to just do it for one day. It'll be throughout the 4 years, and if he can get Congress to change things to a dictatorship form, there's no going back. As they say, you can't put the genie back in the bottle once the genie is out. So we talk about civil religion, not to construe this with talking about uh, religion as most of us would talk about it, but the fact that politics are now being used as a caveat or a springboard, um, from a religious perspective. You reach these people who say they believe, but you also give them this power of being in the standpoint of religious, I'm sorry, political mindsets. So civil religion encompasses such things as religious texts, a veneration of past political leaders, veneration, lives of the leaders to teach moral ideas, moral ideas. So if you're not teaching moral ideas, you must be teaching immoral ideas, Ronleen. Is that how that works?
There's
I'm
no other
just
way to put it. Yeah, there's no other
okay.
way about it.
Religious gatherings
You're
called
either in or you're out, right?
in or out. Is no middle ground. You're in or out. You know, it's right or wrong, right? Religious gatherings called by political leaders. You know, there's a meeting at the church tonight called by Senator or Representative so and so. We're all going to attend. Hmm. Religious symbols on public buildings for worship. These are some of the things that civil religion embodies. Founding myths and other national myths. Um, I've always thought it interesting that the most they're not as feared as they once were, but the one group that embodied fear and disdain for uh, other cultures and races. The three lettered, same lettered group, K, K, and K. I always found it fascinating that part of one of their rituals, and I still don't understand how they can say one thing and then do something else. But I never understood why they burned a cross. Why do why is that a symbolic gesture for them to burning a cross? But yet you talk about religious beliefs. And WWJD, would he do that?
Mm.
So there, there in itself is something to think about. Here's a political driven organization. They that uses that symbol and then they burn it as a symbol. I, it still fascinates me that that's what they do. But in 2023, 2024, we talk about something of this going on in America's civil religion. Hey, we're at the halfway point of our show today, the Kitchings Table. I'm W. Earl Kitchings. Joining me, as always, my co-host Ronleen Kennedy. We're always happy to be with you on Tuesday mornings to bring you our subject matter and our content to give you a reason to be enlightened, to give some serious thought about something, to laugh, to have some fun, because we're not always all serious. We've talked about many, many subjects over the past. Ronleen, you told me it was 3 years we've been doing this.
Yes.
Wow. And there have been some topics that you know just kind of like off the beaten trail, and that's the whole point of what we do here at the Kitchings Table, not to be so constructed or confined to a box. We're out of the box. We're going to talk about things that we feel may be of importance, or just to open your head up and give you something to just think about. So today our topic is civil religion and people using religion to promote politics. And we're talking about the fact that a gentleman by the name of Tim Alberta wrote this book called The Kingdom, the Power, and the Glory. Fascinating book that he is talking about how politics has bled into religion, and those who are strong religious believers are allowing politics to lead them, guide them down a path that um, I don't feel is necessary or something good for the country, because it's all about wanting to get power, and the power to run a country, the power to uh, choose who will do what and how things will be done in uh, a non-democratic fashion, to move the country into autocracy or dictatorship. That's not what this country was built on. That's not what this great experiment is about. That's not why this country is uh, arguably the greatest country in the world. And ironically, unlike Africa or Asia or Europe, it's not as surrounded or connected to as many countries as those are, so that you can just cross one country's border into another. We're surrounded by two countries: Canada to the north, Mexico to the south, and that's it. Other than that, we have to defend our shores on the East Coast and the West Coast, and that is always a constant battle. Uh, you sit out here and you're vulnerable to one extent, but being that you've created the might of a military that will stand and fight not only its own shores, but has the power to go to other shores and help and fight causes. shows you the strength. And again, technology being what it is today, it's not just mechanical anymore, it's technology. Once upon a time, you would have to send uh, planes, and that was always a position of power if you had control of the skies or the airways. If you could control the airways, you control the war, and a lot of battles were fought in the skies. But nowadays, they don't necessarily need the as many, I would say, jet fighters as they once did because they have these drones, and the technology of a drone is unmatched. How hard to detect sometimes because it can fly so low, but it has the power to be so destructive. And that's where technology has taken us. But again, when you're in control and you're very mindful of who's in control, and I think that's the other thing that we're dealing with going into 2024, who's in control. We have to be very thankful that the ex-president never got out of his right mind to start playing with that what they call the egg, that briefcase where you make decisions about national and international actions. Thank God he didn't do that. But who's to say his hands weren't right there on it at times? So when we talk about civil religion and we talk about how people, and this is what one of the excerpts from Tim Alberta's book, that uh, these faction of people who truly believe in their religious beliefs, and it's been basically put in the context of evangelicals for the most part. There may be others, but you know they've come to, as he says in his book, quote unquote, anoint the ex-president. Nobody, no man can be anointed to power above the supreme power. You cannot even be anointed to be on the same level. You can't even be anointed to be on the sub level of the supreme power because you are MAN with many fallacies. We all know this. Man is and won't ever be the perfect being. As much as he may try, he may try to do that in certain circles, but he will never be anointed to be that. And for man to anoint another man to be at that level shows you how much the people who believe in these things are really getting off track as it relates to religion, because um, no man is been relegated to having that type of power. But if you believe that a man should, do you give up your beliefs in your religion? Because what is written in that good book does not line up with anointing a man to have that kind of power um, in this country. I can't speak for other countries, but in this country. So when you look at, uh, I give you another country, Ronline, that was once, uh, well, it still is. It's kind of like England, but that's Japan, where you still have a monarchy, but you also have a democracy in place or a parliament in place to a degree, because England has a parliament and is run by a prime minister, but it still has the queen or the king monarchy that has that place in that country's governing, I guess. Prime minister and parliament run the country, king and or the queen oversee. and they still have that place of position. Uh, Maybe not so much power as they once did, but once upon a time when the king and the queens were the ultimate power, whatever they said, as they say, whatever they say goes. That's just it. But that's not where we're trying to be in the U.S. of A. To have monarchy, dictatorship, autocratic. No, the democratic experiment, the democracy of this country continues to go forth. The Constitution, as much as people want to chip away at it, must be held high and at a standard, because once we lose that document, once that document is shredded up, once it's torn in pieces, and like a puzzle, when you lose some of the pieces, you can't make that complete puzzle. And when you don't have the right pieces, you can't make that complete puzzle. And we don't need to be losing the the governing power that the men who put that document in place started. You have three forms of control in our government: executive, judicial, and legislative. That needs to forever be the case for this democracy in this particular country. And once that is fragmented, as we saw, it was attacked on January 6th. That was an attack against the Constitution. You might say, well, they attacked the Capitol building, and the Capitol building is the bastion for our politics, for our government, not so much politics, but for government. And when you have people in politics who no longer want to govern, but want to move toward more power, and underlying that power move, Ronleen, what's underlying that power move, right?
Yes, tell us.
Well, I think the song the OJs made back in 1972, here it is 50 plus years later, still rings true. Money, money, money. It still rings true that even since the days uh, going back to after the Revolutionary War and the country was freed from England, the powers to be still wanted power, money to give them control. Not much has changed. It just has a different look. It looks different now. I mean, once upon a time, I know when we were growing up, man, when you say you were a millionaire, boy, you were, wow, man, they're a millionaire. Yeah, that don't mean a whole lot nowadays.
Mhm.
You know, that's almost in a certain context, in a certain respect. You saying you're a millionaire. Some people might say, well, you're kind of poor, aren't you? you know, you got to say multi-millionaire, multi.
Mhm.
And I think multi for me means exceeding 100 million. But you've got more billionaires in this world nowadays than ever thought imaginable. But it's just interesting how they never seem to have enough. I need more. Greed means you need more. Power plus money plus control plus greed, that's a bad equation.
Mhm.
It does not have uh, the betterment, the good of society, for humanity in its favor. I mean, if you're going to use that power that you have, use it for things that are positive and good. Imagine if the whole world uh, could operate or be somewhat resembling how the United States is with not only agriculture but technology. All the things that make this country strong and great. If all countries were like that, will we have a better world, or will we still be worrying about power and greed? A lot of countries wouldn't have to be asking you for things if they had their own. You know, you wouldn't have to fund them because they got their own. Everybody's got their own, so we, collaborative. But anyway, we're going to move to Ron Lean's Black History Moment. Ron Lean?
Well, Earl, thank you so much for bringing this forward to us because it is very important um, that we get it right, before we end up in a place, as you say, we cannot recover from. Once that genie is out of the bottle, it's not like that TV program where the genie can pop back in, and you cover the top. That's not going to be the case, as been decided already. It's been demonstrated. All right, so my Black History acknowledgement for today. I'm presenting the Reverend Fred David Gray. He was born in December 1930 in Alabama. He is an American civil rights attorney, and he's a preacher, an activist, and he became a state legislator of Alabama back in the 1970s. And most people may have heard of him, but I'm going to let you know that he played a very important role in the American civil rights. He was the attorney for Claudette Colvin, Rosa Parks, and Martin Luther King Jr., just to name a few of the dynamic things that he did. Now, for those that did not know who Claudette Colvin was, at the time she was 15, and I understand that she was pregnant during that time as a teenager. And she was sitting in a non white section of the bus. And when there were no more places for the counterparts to sit, which is non-black people, they wanted her to give up her seat, and she refused. So in that case, the bus stopped. She was arrested, and he represented her case. Also, came after her was Rosa Parks. And Rosa Parks did the same thing because she was approached by the NAACP to, in order to affect change, being that Miss Colvin at that time, she was a child. And back then, child's rights really wasn't looked at as being what it is today. So Rosa Parks stepped into that space, and we see today now they're forming a national holiday around her. That's what's on the table. And of course, our dear Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who also was the civil rights activist that also was a minister. That got things moving to where we're celebrating plus 50 years today. He was carted out on tax evasion. So, guess what? The Reverend Fred David Gray stepped in to be his attorney, and here we are today, in our today's time, celebrating. And I'm glad that he's still around, living out his days in Alabama. And I can imagine, I saw him in the AARP magazine for the January February 2024 edition. So if you all could check him out and all the others that they highlighted, you will find that as interesting reading. The last thing that I will say about Reverend Fred David Gray is that in 2022, he was given, awarded, not by the President Joe Biden, the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award. Now, I don't know about how you look at things, but I'm glad that he was able to receive that in his lifetime instead of posthumously. So I turn this over to you, Earl. Thank you so much for allowing us to do this today with the Black History Acknowledgement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ronleen, and we're always happy that we can bring this historical information to our viewers and listeners because we don't feel that we have to. relegate ourselves to talking about Black history for 28 days out of the year, when we can talk about it for 365 days. And here at the Kitchings Tables, we will do our part so that we will bring it to you at least 52 times throughout the course of the year. And the more Ron Lee can bring to you about people you may not have heard of, the more it impacts our total history as a race and as a culture. So thank you, Ron Lee, for bringing us Mr. Gray this morning. Well, I guess that brings us to the close of another show, Ron Lee. Thank you so much for being with me today and providing your comments and thoughts. We are glad to speak to our audience each and every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. here on the Kitchings Table. So we hope that something we said today helped you with some understanding or shed some light on something. And we hope that you continue to tune in every Tuesday morning here on the Kitchings Table. So for my co-host, Ron Lee Kennedy, I'm W. Earl Kitchings, and saying until next time, as we always tell you, do something good for somebody today. Till next Tuesday morning, take care, everybody.
Goodbye.